ChatGPT has to be the best AI for n8n. Nope, it's got to be Claude. You guys can't be sleeping on Gemini. What about Grok? Definitely not. Knowing what AI model is best to use can be really confusing because it completely depends on your automation. But the great thing is that you don't have to subscribe to every single AI model out there and break your bank in the process. I'm going to show you how you can connect your n8n agents to every single AI model without having a single subscription. That way, you're always going to have access to the best AI model for your particular automation. Your bank account is going to thank me. I run a community of entrepreneurs who are using AI to cut costs, save time, and scale their business. And I'm making this video so that people are able to make these automations in n8n in a way that's very accessible without having all these bills piled up. So to do that, we're going to break this video down into 3 parts. First part, I'm going to take you through all the major AI models, and I'm going to explain what model I think is best for what situation, for what type of automations and agents. Next, I'm going to show you how in n8n you can connect your agent to any AI model without having a single subscription. And then finally, I'm going to show you a very powerful AI agent workflow where, depending on the prompt you give it, your AI agent is going to change which AI model it uses, so it's always using the best AI model for the job. Let's jump into it. First, let's look at the AI model landscape. There's so many companies that's producing these models. Each of them has lots of different submodels, and it can be so overwhelming to even know where to focus. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to make it really simple. I'm going to look at the different companies that I think are really differentiating themselves. And I'm also going to say, well, the companies that are doing some interesting stuff and maybe you want to keep an eye on them, but really not best to use their models right now. And I've broken it down this way. So on the left, I have what I call the big 6. So each of these companies, I think, are doing something quite unique with how they train their AI, and it can be used in a specific use case within n8n. And on the right, we have other companies that are doing interesting work, but I would say they're not differentiated enough for me to want to switch over to them. So good to keep an eye on, but my focus would be here on the left, thinking about the big 6 companies. So if we break this down even further, someone in my community asked me, what do you think the best model is to use in n8n? And the question I asked back is, what are you trying to do with the automation? Because the best model to use really depends on what you're optimizing for when you're creating your AI agents and automations. Maybe you're doing a very large volume and you're trying to optimize for speed and price. Or maybe you're trying to do something very complex and you need a model with good inductive reasoning. Or it could even be that you're trying to have a research agent and being able to search the internet is really, really important. So for each one of those automations, I would actually recommend a completely different model. So the big parameters I think about when choosing model is the reasoning ability. So how well can it break down complex problems and then break it down into steps to figure it out? Its programming ability, its ability to search the internet, how good it is at writing. Can I fine tune it? Can I create custom GPTs? Is there a large library of custom fine-tuned models? Restrictions, am I constantly being moderated or can I get around that? The context windows. This one's really important when you're trying to train your own agents. Of course, price is really important, but I would say in most cases, maybe not the most important factor unless you're doing very large volumes. Can it accept lots of multimodal inputs? And then speed. So those are the main criteria I would say we need to think about when trying to choose what AI model we want to focus on. And just to say for this video, what's in scope is we're only talking about text models. So when we're generating something like text or code, we're not talking about if we're generating images, videos, sounds. I can cover that in a different video. So yeah, this is how we would compare and come up with what model we want to work on, and specifically we're looking at text. So the first place I would start off when it comes to this is looking at the AI rankings. I think these are useful, but they're not enough to make a decision. I would never make a decision on what AI model to use just based on this. I always think you need to get your hands dirty and you need to experiment. But I think these are a good starting point. The things we can look at is price, context window, reasoning, and coding. So let's break this down a bit. When it comes to price, we have O3 all the way on the right. So O3 works really well, but you can see it's quite expensive. So if you're doing something quite low volume, O3 tends to work pretty well. On the left, ones that stand out are like DeepSeek, Llama. But what I would say here is never look at price on its own. Because if you have very cheap model, but it's not very good, it doesn't matter much, right? So what I really want to think about is the ratio of price to intelligence. And what catches my eye here is the DeepSeek model. So I know DeepSeek model R1 is quite an intelligent model, but you can see it's very low priced as well, similar to ChatGPT 4.1. So these are ones that I like to use quite often, and it's how I'd like people to think about this price. Don't just think about price by itself, think about the ratio of price to intelligence, and also the volumes you're doing. If you're doing really low volumes, like it's fine to go with a more intelligent model, and price only comes into play really when you're working with very high volumes in your automations. We have context window, and this is really only important if you have massive prompts or you're training your agents with large knowledge bases. It's really fascinating that Llama seems to be pulling ahead here with a 10 million context window. For the most part, the big players seem to be standing at 1 million. And even here, Gemini, it's the old 2.0 model that has 2 million. Interestingly, the new 2.5 model that's come out only has 1 million. You can see that here. So I'd say everyone here is pretty much on an even basis. Llama's pulling ahead, but this is not very accessible. So quite an even playing field here. And then we have reasoning. So reasoning, we can see O4 is leading the way, we have O3. And remember here, DeepSeek R1, when I mentioned it's quite intelligent, but the price is quite low. And we can see a bunch here. But again, I'm not going to try to go too much into reasoning on coding, only because this is a good place to kind of get an idea on what you should test, but you should really get your hands dirty. So let me jump into my actual recommendations for what I use for the different use cases. And for me, when it comes to advanced reasoning and logic, I've been finding personally that the O3 and O4 models work really well. I ask it to break down complex problems, and just in my own experience, they do a great job at that. When it comes to coding, two that stand out is Claude and the ChatGPT O3 model. So with Claude, it's really ranked lower than the O3 model for coding. But what I find is for my use case, which is creating n8n automations and trying to get me that first step, it does really well. And when I ask it questions about n8n, it performs really well. This is why it's really important to get your hands dirty to figure out what you should use. But I think both of them are very similar playing field. So I would give the slight edge to Claude, but you could use either. For context window, for me, I like ChatGPT 4.1. Just when it comes to the context window and comparing that with all the other factors like price, is intelligent, I think it's a good all-rounder. Next, for writing, this one's quite interesting. So Claude is quite good for all-purpose writing. It seems that a lot of the training baked in makes it good at writing, but I love custom GPTs for writing. You know, if you need a custom GPT for a landing page, there is one. For a newsletter, sales copy, there's such a large library. So this is one place I like going to when it comes to getting something produced quickly. And then for fine tuning, again, that links to this. I think nothing is beating the custom GPT library now, maybe because they launched it first, but other AI models just can't compare and compete in this space right now. Best for searching the internet. So far, Perplexity still has the crown here. So if you're doing anything that's very internet search based, I would always go to Perplexity. And then finally, least amount of restrictions is Grok. So this is well known. It's quite known with Elon Musk. He likes reducing the moderation. So if you're doing anything that needs a bit less moderation, then Grok's the way to go. So this gives you an idea of the different LLMs to use for different use cases, and it gives you a starting point. But I'd always recommend testing them out yourselves. And now you know about these, you don't want to then go on and subscribe to 5 different AI models and have hundreds of recurring subscriptions per month, right? No one wants to do that. But luckily for you, there's a really easy solution around that. And this is a company called OpenRouter. So OpenRouter allows you through one company to get access to any single AI model. And they have an integration with n8n. So this is OpenRouter. You make an account and you go here, The first thing you need to do is just add a few credits. So what I like is this isn't a subscription. If you had a subscription with Claude and ChatGPT, you're unlikely to be doing enough prompts where you're going to be maxing out your limits, right? So there's a lot that's going wasted. Whereas with this, you can literally top up what you want and then use it across any LLM and really get your money's worth. So no monthly subscription, which is really good. So you just go here, credits, and you just need to top up about $5. Once you've done that, you can go to models, and here you have access to lots of different models. So there's text models, you have series. If you go to GPT, you can see all the GPT ones. With Claude, they have the new Claude Opus 4, which is excellent for coding. Gemini. So they have pretty much everything you need here. And then at the same time, if you want to use OpenRouter within their UI, you can chat with the different models. So you can, let's say I do best coding models. You have your models here. You can add a model. So let me do O3, for example. So now I have OpenAI O3 model, which is really good. They have a ranking system, but quite frankly, I just find it confusing. I don't really know what's going on here, but this could be useful to some people. But that's not what you want. What we want is, how do we use this within n8n? So we're going to go to a fresh n8n worksheet, and I'm going to show you how you can get your AI agent access to any one of these LLMs. So the first thing we want to do, we're going to add a trigger. So we go to this n8n workflow, and we'll do on chat message. And then we want to add our AI agent node. So we're going to add that in. So what's really nice with n8n is that we have an integration with OpenRouter. So when we click chat model, we can see here we have an OpenRouter node. So when we click that, to set this up, what we need is to add some credentials. So we do create new credentials, and you need an API key. I'm going to go back into OpenRouter. Here we have keys. We can create an API key. We can name it. I'll name it n8n test. Now we can create that, copy it, then you're almost set up. I'm going to paste this in here. And now if we go into this, we can see we have access to every single model. So we have some of Claude's here. We have a bunch of ones I don't even know. We have DeepSeek ones, Gemini, Llama, this Mistral one, this is the French one. So I'm not going to go through all of them, but you have everything you need here. And this makes it really useful when you're trying to create your AI agents. And if you're trying to do a search AI agent, for example, you can find Perplexity and use one of their models. So this gives you a really powerful interface into every single AI model. So it's really cool, right? Maybe we can test one out. So let's do Grok, for example. Let's do a Grok here. And I can say, if I do open chat, my favorite prompt is write me a rap song about AI agents. Let's just test that it works. So now it's going to be going to OpenRouter. OpenRouter is going to be able to hit the Grok API, and that's going to come back and feed in our prompt. So we'll just go through that. And here we go, we have it. And it's given us our rap song. Yo, check out the scene. It's a brand new, I'm not going to rap this. This ain't a rap channel. It can be a rap channel if you want. But yeah, I'm not going to rap this. But yeah, there we go. We've created the rap song. And we use that using Grok, which has less moderation. Now this is cool on itself, but I want to show you an even more powerful workflow to really take advantage of this technology. What I'm going to help you do is I'm going to help you create an AI agent that, depending on the prompt you ask it, is going to by itself figure out what the best AI model is and use that to carry out your prompt. So that's what we're going to create. So to start off, we're going to have, let me show this because we're going to have two agents working together. This first agent is going to be the AI model picker. Its only job is to select the right model based on the prompt you give it. And then we're going to have a second agent it's connected to. So let's bring this out here. And this agent's job is to actually go off and complete the task. So the first thing I want to do is set up the first agent. So to do that, we're going to give it access to a brain. For this, I want to use ChatGPT 4.1. And that's because it has a good balance between intelligence and speed. So we're going to go with this. And then we want to add in the prompt. So you want to open up your AI agent, add option, and add a system message. And here I'm going to give it a prompt, and I'll take you through the prompt I've created. So let me show you the prompt I have. So what I've done is I've said, you are an internal routing agent. Your sole job is to read the user's query, decide which one best fits, and return a tiny JSON object. And what I've done is I've given it the top 5 models that we came up with from previously. So the ones we looked at here. I wanted to say, if you're doing anything advanced reasoning or that requires multi-step logic, use OpenAI o3. If it comes to writing or fixing code, use Claude. If it's very long inputs and outputs are needed, use ChatGPT 4.1. Anything search related, use Perplexity. And if queries are likely to be refused or heavily moderated, use Grok. And just a key tip here is when you set this up, the writing here, so when I wrote the model, we need to write it exactly as it comes up in this list of options in order for it to work, which I've done. And I'm going to give you the prompt and this entire workflow in the description. So you're going to go in there and you can access all of this. So now we have our prompt here, and I've just given it some instructions. One thing you always want to do when you set up an agent is you want to tell it how you want it to output the data. So here, for example, I've told it the output format I want. All I want it to do is give me a JSON, and for this to have my original prompt and the model I think I should use. So I've written it here in the prompt, but what I'm also going to do is copy this, and here's a tip. When you're creating an agent, you can add this model where you say require specific output format. So by doing this, you're basically opening up this new input here where you can tell it, always make sure that you give me this exact output. So I'm going to take this away, and now it's always going to give me a JSON with a query and a model. It's a really useful tip when you're making agents. So now we have our first decider agent. Let's test it out. So I'm going to say, what's a good one? So let's say I want to ask it something that's quite search based. So ideally, it should use Perplexity. If I want to say, tell me the latest AI news from today. I think it's very much a search-based question. So we're going to send that off. The second model is going to fail, which is fine. But let's see what it's done here. If I click into this, we can see it's figured out the right model to use as Perplexity, and it's pulled through the query. So it's done its job. That's the decider agent. Let's test it one more time. If I can say, code me a tic-tac-toe game, keep it very simple. So here I'm asking it a coding question. So right now, I should expect it to do something like Claude. There we go. It's chosen Anthropic Claude. So it's doing its job perfectly, which is based on my prompt, it's going off and it's selecting the right AI model to use, which is really cool because now you've set it up once. Every time you add a prompt in, it's going to choose the perfect AI model for that specific prompt. So that's step one, but we actually want it to carry out the task, right? So this is when we set up the second agent. So in here, we want to also give it a chat model. And then we're going to add open router again. But now here, what we're going to do is we're going to add expression, and we're going to dynamically allow the expression to be chosen by the decider agent. So here where it's chosen the model, I'm going to drag this in. So now the model is going to be chosen based on what the previous agent tells it to do. So that's how we're going to dynamically make it so this second agent is always choosing the right model for the job. And then for here, we just want to make sure that we can add the prompt in. So where we have our query, we just want to tell it this is what we want to do. So we're going to drag in the query here. We can give ourselves some memory. So we can add a simple memory. So let's just do this prompt again. So now that's going through. And the reason I'm doing this is I just want the data to load here. And then what we also do as this is going is we're going to add a memory here. And then when you want to set up this second memory, we want to have the same session ID as the first one. So these memories are linked together. I'm going to click into this. And what you want to do is, again, press define below. And where you have this one here, you want to do session ID and you want to drag this in. Now, if we save that, we have this incredible AI agent workflow where we have a decider agent here that's only job is to decide what AI model to use for your specific prompt. And you have this second AI agent here, which goes off and actually does the action. So here I asked it to tell me the latest AI news, and it's gone and it's summarized the key information. And it's used Perplexity for that. So we know this, use Perplexity, tell me the latest AI news from today, and here it's gone off and it's done that. So there you go. This is how in n8n you're able to get access to any AI model you want. You should know a bit of background on what AI model to use when, but this prompt you can customize and make it your own if you have different use cases. And then you have this workflow that allows you to really easily go on and select through different AI models. So if you found this useful, I have a free community here. This has almost 800 people now, and it's basically filled with entrepreneurs who are trying to learn how to use AI so they can cut costs, save time, and really scale their business. Now, if you want to take your journey deeper into learning n8n and AI automation, I would actually recommend my paid community, AI Agents Guild Pro. So in this community, this is where we give you access to a whole knowledge base of different courses where you learn the foundations of n8n, you learn specific marketing and sales-based workflows. There's a vibe coding masterclass and so much more. And in this, we go through and do weekly calls, you get private one-to-ones, and this is really for taking your journey into AI automation and AI agents that little bit deeper. So I hope you found this video useful, and I will catch you next time.